Pretty good stuff. Where's the good stuff? Right here. No, 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 not. That's not gonna work. That's not gonna work. Yeah, this closer. Cayenne now. That's. Hi everybody, welcome back for another video. I'm going to be talking today about a topic that I am very interested in learning a lot more about, and I'm going to be coming to you more in the future. But I just wanted to give you an overview today about what makes peppers hot and why we need to know about that. And I think that's important to understand the biology of why these peppers are hot. We know it's the capsaicin and the capsaicinoid compounds that are in them. The higher the concentration of them, the higher the Scoville heat unit. And we all know about Carolina Reaper and ghost peppers and those kind of things. Those have very high concentrations of those. We know that as you go down in the Scoville units, they become less concentrated, so it requires more extraction. A lot of these capsaicinoids can be extracted in ethanol, and then they can be extracted then from the ethanol in more of by lyophilizing off the liquid, and then you end up with a powder, and that powder will be enriched and basically with those compounds. And so in science we often use cartoons and things like this to make it a little easier to make a point. I want to talk about two receptors. Here they're just labeled receptor 1, receptor 2. In humans they're called TRPV1 and TRPA1. That's all you need to know. It's two receptors. TRPV1 is the receptor, the main receptor for capsaicin, but there are other receptors such as TRPA1 that are essentially redundant. And so I think what you're missing from a lot of your OC powders is you're activating TRP1. You're very dependent on the genetics of that person and how many TRPV1 receptors they have present. What is a receptor? Well, a receptor is a protein that sits on a lipid bilayer, and this is what this represents. These are the hydrophobic tails of the lipid. On the inside, you got a polarity of your fatty acid molecules. All you need to know here is it's almost like a mattress, and you have proteins that go through the mattress and go from the outside of the cell to the inside of the cell, and they signal. Like, for example, these are calcium signaling receptors. They pull calcium from outside the cell and they bring it inside, like a tunnel going down through this lipid bilayer into the cell. That's how they signal, and that's how your pain signals are derived, ultimately downstream of lots of other signal transduction molecules. The bottom line I want to make the point is that because you have other receptors which are potentially redundant, by only targeting TRPV1, let's say that's the one on the left, the one on the right you're not targeting, you're just leaving it alone. So what we need to do is come up with strategies that will target both receptors, and by doing so we will synergize. And there is literature, I've been reading some articles in pulmonary cells and other tissues where there is a synergistic activation of calcium signaling and pain and other inflammatory responses when you activate both receptors at the same time. So there really is a lot of opportunity there to optimize how our chemical rounds work on more people. So we eliminate the 20% of people who don't respond. So at least we know now that we can rely more on chemical rounds, because we know those chemical rounds will work on everybody because we're targeting multiple receptors and not just one. And I think that's a potential really nice improvement that we can really benefit by taking advantage of the synergy. We may also be able to use less of the capsaicin powder in total, so we may be able to get really potent 43 caliber or 50 caliber pepper balls that have as much of the active ingredient that we need, or enough to, in combination, to give enough signal to get a desired effect without needing to use a 68 caliber pepper ball. And so by being able to use smaller launchers, we don't need powerful launchers. We just need small, compact, reliable launchers that will efficiently deliver that 43 caliber projectile. There'll be more than sufficient chemical there in combination by coming up with the right formulation of compounds. And there are really good compounds that I'm finding in the literature that activate TRPA1 really nicely, and they are available. You can buy them in bulk, and they're available for everybody. And I will talk about some of those kind of things in future videos. I just wanted to sort of lay out the general concept of a combination therapy. Sorry, I'm a scientist. I'm constantly trying to come up with combination therapies that will treat cancer. In this case, I'm coming up with a combination of chemicals which may be more effective at causing pain on the person that you're delivering them to and improving upon the pepper ball, the chemical round, and making it more universally better for everyone. And I just want to point out, I am not trying to sell anything. I'm not trying to develop a product here. I just want to give out information from a scientific perspective, and everyone can do with it as they wish. I'm just trying to sort of move the community forward by giving my perspective. I do think that I have a unique perspective to offer. I do understand the biochemistry. I can dig into the literature as needed. This is not exactly my field. I'm not a neurologist, and I'm not focused on that. I'm more in other aspects of cancer cell biology and drug therapy. I think the general feeling that you should take home from this is that there is potential to improve upon what we already have. I do think there's a lot of safety things that you have to be careful about. You don't want it to become a noxious signal. That means it's toxic or potentially harmful to a person. We just want to have a pain signal. From my experience reading, I think targeting these two receptors is really a very unlikely to be problematic from a health perspective. And I think that it will not be any worse than, for example, combining OC and CS. These are both within the same family, the TRP family, and so they're within the same family. They have similar function. We're just trying to game the system to make sure that we get optimal results from our powder. So let me summarize and just bring it together. Burnamax projectiles have already done this combination. So the idea of combining those two types of agents is not new. But what I'm telling you is that these, when you dig down into the reason why that combination is potentially probably the best thing out there on the market in terms of a combination between OC and CS, is because they're targeting those two receptors. And what I'm telling you is that there are ways to target those receptors by using natural products and things that you can buy at a Asian supermarket or at the Chinese grocery store or places like that. Now, I'm not advocating for making your own chemical balls, but I am saying that I'm going to explain to you some of the biology, and I'm going to give you some examples. I've gotten into the literature. I have been looking at what are the types of agonists that work on both sides and how we can combine those. And it's a really fascinating series that's coming up. I'm going to talk about that. I think I'm all about transparency and trying to help the consumer. And again, the more knowledge is power. The more we know, the better off we can be in our self-defense planning. Always be thinking, be wise, be smart, be safe. We'll see you next time. So here you can see the powder that's inside. So this is an inert round, but the actual active round would have 5% PAVA, which is an irritant to the eyes and the skin, mixed in with an inert substance as well. So this is this thing is packed full of powder, as you can see.